Joining us now is John Hinderaker, who is the top writer there on the Powerline blog. He's a superb writer, great friend of this show. You've met him many times before. He's going to fill us in on the latest to do with the Biden gerontocracy, if you want to call it that, and also some strange, mysterious pregnancies. But first of all, John, great to see you. Tell us about this brilliant idea of Greg Abbott's, the Texas governor, to how he deals with his illegal immigrants.
Well, Rowan, I love this story because, as you know, the Biden administration has just opened the southern border so that hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants have poured into the state of Texas, where Greg Abbott is the governor. Now, Texas has to somehow try to deal with them. And so Governor Abbott is sending some of these illegal immigrants to Washington, D.C. And it's voluntary. Nobody forces them to go, but they've got one bus so far that has gone from Texas to Washington, D.C. It's been unloaded 2 blocks from the U.S. Capitol. A second bus is on the way. And basically the message is, look, you did this, Joe Biden. You did this. Government, you figure out what to do with these hundreds of thousands of people. And somebody interviewed some of that first group that got off that initial bus from Texas, asked them what their plans were. Of course, they had free cell phones and so on. And several of them said, well, we're going to take a bus down to Florida. Of course, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, said, no, you're not. The legislature has actually appropriated a little bit of money to send any illegal immigrants that come their way to Delaware, which is Joe Biden's home state. But Rowan, I've got an idea. I think there's a lot of places that have got plenty of room to house illegal immigrants. I mean, for example, Martha's Vineyard. Probably the most liberal in the U.S. I'll bet there's room for 25,000 illegal immigrants on Martha's Vineyard. Marin County, across the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco, wide open spaces. I'll bet they could house 50,000 illegal immigrants. And I think if we started dispersing them in that way, all of a sudden the wall would get built.
James.
Well, I mean, I actually reckon that there probably are a few illegal immigrants working in some of the private kitchens in Marin County and Martha's Vineyard. But I want to ask you, John, we saw the footage of Joe Biden appearing to shake hands with midair. There have been reports now that Dianne Feinstein in California, that she just doesn't remember people's names anymore and just rambles and gives the same talking points to conversations she has over and over again. And you look at the leadership of the American government right now, and it looks like, the old days of the Soviet Union when all the elderly, apparatchiks would be standing there in their bearskin hats with emphysema on Lenin's tomb watching the troops roll by. What is happening here with this, you call it American gerontocracy, that's going on? And is that part of the reason why the American leadership class is getting so frankly decrepit?
Well, I think it is, James. It's a gerontocracy, which means rule by the extremely elderly. And the clip you showed of Joe Biden earlier is typical. Almost every time he makes a public appearance, there's a video clip like this. It's obvious he is suffering from dementia. It's obvious he is not fully functioning, but he's not the only one. One thing that people do is they take the average age of the president, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the Majority Leader of the Senate. They average those three, the senior officials in the federal government. Well, right now, the average age of those three is 77. Nancy Pelosi is actually the oldest, and she is frankly gaga. The youngster in that group is Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who was a law school classmate of mine. And, so we see this over and over again. A member of the United States Senate said recently in a private conversation, so I won't say his name, that a third of the members of the Senate ought to be in nursing homes. And it's a real problem. The voters, I think, need to start recognizing it is time for a new generation.
John, I want to ask you about a curious story. Women in a women's prison are turning up pregnant. How is this happening? Could you please enlighten our viewers?
Yeah, Rita, this story sheds a lot of light on the gender confusion that is now rampant across America. So there's this all-women's prison in New Jersey, and all of a sudden, several of the women have gotten pregnant. And so you ask, well, how could that happen? And the answer is 27 men decided that they wanted to transfer from men's prisons to this women's prison, and they transferred using what I call the Shania Twain method. They said, "Man, I feel like a woman," and that is all it takes. That is all it takes. And so these so-called trans men, or trans women, I mean, which is to say men, 27 of them, got transferred to this women's prison. And what happened? The women are now the real women are now getting pregnant. And so we've got this spectacle where we just had a Supreme Court nominee who was unable to say what a woman is. But these New Jersey inmates, they may have their faults, but they're not stupid. And they've got that well figured out. They know what a woman is.
John Hinderaker, always great to chat to you. Fantastic. People can read you and your colleagues there on the Powerline blog, which is a must-read on everything crazy that's happening in America and around the world. John, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming on Outsiders this morning.
Thank you, Rowan. Great to be with you.